Hey guys, just finished recording the entire tutorial series and I want to show you a small playtest we had yesterday with people over Discord. So in this tutorial series we'll be building a 3 versus 3 multiplayer game with full Steam support. It will be running on Able Ability system with multiplayer abilities, and it is using mostly marketplace assets when it comes down to visuals. We are also going to build custom characters in Character Creator 3 and importing them into Unreal Engine. And let me show you what we managed to set up in barely just 41 hours and another approximately 2 hours of debugging and fixing some issues. So overall, with even watching all the progress bars and everything, it took 43 hours to build this game. It's not perfect, it's flawed. There are a lot of things that I could done better, but there are also a lot of things I've learned while making that I will definitely do better next time. But it works. It's a fully functional project, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Advanced Blueprint Tutorials. And this time I have something new. We're going to make a very long series and we're going to build a game basically from start to finish, including with actual cooking and building of the game. And we're going to do it 3 times. Once we're going to let's do it again. Greetings and welcome back to Advanced Blueprint Tutorials. We're going to build today an entire game. We're going to start by planning and go through the entire development process and finalize with an actual build. So what are we doing today? We are creating game mechanics that are simple, testable, and something that is doable within a game jam project for a solo developer. So we can't spend more than, let's say, 5 or 7 days building this game. And I can't put more than, let's say, 3-4 hours a day on it. So this is one of the goals. The game is working on multiplayer, and it must work properly on both dedicated server and listen server alike. We are going to recreate the entire game mechanics 3 times, not in a single project, but it will be like 3 separate mini tutorial series. One will be using Unreal Engine 4 version 4.27 and will be heavily relying on the Able Ability component and system. The second recreation will be using Unreal Engine 4.27 as well, but everything will be constructed from ground up in blueprints, including all the multiplayer mechanics, all the combat behaviors, and, well, basically everything. And the third approach will be in Unreal Engine 5 Preview 1, and for this one we're going to be using gameplay ability system, so the base gas that is built into Unreal Engine and is becoming a standard in the Unreal Engine 5. However, it is not a must, but it is something that I wanted to go a bit deeper in for a very long time. So the main features of what we are trying to achieve today is that we want to have gameplay mechanics that are based on abilities. The game will be first-person perspective because it requires higher fidelity of animations, and it requires both first-person and third-person animations to work properly for the player perspective and the remote player perspective, as well as the server itself. We're going to do a very simple RPG style system based on Open D20 game license. So this is the hardcore Dungeons and Dragons system, but it will be very simplified with less RPG elements, just, you know, basic classes and basic functionalities. We're going to introduce melee weapons. We're going to introduce ranged weapons, at least bows and maybe crossbows, or maybe even thrown weapons, and we're going to introduce magic and spells, which will be both melee range projectile-based, area or of effect-based, and buffs and debuffs. We're going to also set goals. There will be a win condition that can be changed with the game mode. We're going to have multiple game modes, which means that we'll be able to play different, capture the flag, deathmatch, team battles, sieges, or maybe even battle royale, whatever we want, based on just switching of the game mode, even using the same maps. Everything will be session-based, and it's going to be hostable as a listen server, so you don't have to build a fancy dedicated server for the game to even function. It will have a server browser and just basic functionalities that allows you to create games and join games of other players. And once the entire game is built in the goal of this tutorial, we're going to actually play it together and record our play sessions and try to find some bugs and fix them in the next patch. Optionally, we're going to import custom characters into our game, custom maps from Marketplace, and import them in such a way that they will work with our game modes. Add interactable puzzles and traps and other features to make the entire environment of the gameplay a bit more fun to use. We might introduce MOBA-style NPCs, so doing a very basic AI system in general. I haven't decided on that yet. And we might go through a separate video just to show you how to build a dedicated server from scratch. This is something I don't know if I'll be doing or not, because it requires really a lot of disk space just to do the entire process, and the process takes several hours. But I think it's very important to cover it because the process is a bit different today than it was years ago. What we are not covering in this tutorial is even when we are using gameplay ability system, we are not going to rely on gameplay effects and gameplay attributes, because use of gameplay attributes requires full C++ and cannot be done in any way in blueprints. And gameplay effects relies on modification of attributes. The level of complexity of the RPG system we are introducing is simply too big for us to handle it in blueprints alone. So we'll be using gameplay abilities, but we'll not be using effects and attributes, just handle all the events and all the actions inside the abilities themselves. There is a framework which is called ACF, which is a very solid framework that covers everything. It has inventory, equipment, animations, movement, abilities, well, absolutely everything, but it is a whole different thing. It's really giant, and it deserves its own series, and it deserves separate coverage, not just as an option to the tutorial we're doing here. We are not going to be using Steam as networking service provider. We're going to use subsystem sessions, just the standard one. So it is based on Epic online services, but it is not using the services itself. So that goes to the fourth point, which is achievement, access control, etc. All of them are connected to a net subsystem, so it's either Steam or it's Epic Games or it's a different one. We're not going to cover it here because this is very platform specific, and our game need to be publishable and downloadable from anywhere and work always. If you are running a subsystem or not, it should just always work. And all tutorials that we're going to handle here are covered in blueprints only. I am considering making a mixed tutorial when you do some C++ and some blueprints. But there is a very high demand for blueprints only tutorials, and this is what we are focusing on. The only exception is when we are custom building a plugin, and this is a skill that absolutely every developer need to have. And another exception will be building the dedicated server is if I decided to actually go with this plan and do the dedicated server. So this is the only exception, but when it comes down to creating the game, blueprints only. So let's discuss the first steps. we need to plan, measure, execute, and test. So basically, when it comes down to planning, let me put the presentation off. So when it comes down to planning, what you want to do is first of all, measure your time that you're spending on the project. I am using Clockify Me for this, but there are multiple free applications that are in multiple business suites like Google or Microsoft, and you can use any of them to your needs. And just measure your time that you are spending on projects. I have multiple projects. I have Patreons I'm helping. I have some commission work. And I have my own projects that I am tracking time for all of them. So up to this point, I spent approximately 1 hour 40 minutes on this project. But I already prepared something which is part of the planning. So I have prepared a plan in a program from Microsoft called Planner, but you can use any free application for Kanban task boards as you like. You can use what is it called? You know what? I can just provide you with a list of free applications, and you should have some you should have project management style selected for your game. So for example, my favorite style of project management is Scrum. It works really well, and it works well even if you have a one-person project. So what you should do, you should write down your epics or user stories. You should know exactly what you are trying to achieve, like I did with the general presentation that I showed you. And then based on this presentation, I started creating backlog objects, and based on those backlog objects, I created more of them that were just evolution of the first ones, and then I created subtasks. So I have right now a fair number of tasks here, and those are just starter tasks. This will not cover the entire game that we are planning to build. But this will help me track what I am doing, how much time I am spending doing that, and how hard it was to do all those tasks, so I can plan and evaluate future tasks a bit better than the previous one. So let's get started. Let's get the first task into project setting, plugin configuration, and doing some basic stuff. Setting up some gameplay modes, activate plugins, activate distance fields, and other settings in the project.